Ambassador Zethkar adjusted his ceremonial robes as he entered the United Earth Council chambers, his four eyes scanning the assembled human representatives with barely concealed contempt. The hegemony had conquered 47 star systems, each populated by species that worshipped their gods with proper reverence. Yet these peculiar bipeds claimed to have abandoned their deities entirely. Primitive, he had reported to the Hegemony Council just cycles ago. They worship nothing but themselves and their crude materialism. They will surrender within solar rotations once they witness our divine mandate. The human ambassador, a small woman named Chen, stood to address the gathered delegates. Her voice carried none of the trembling reverence that other species showed when discussing matters of cosmic importance. Ambassador Zethkar, she began, you've demanded our surrender based on your god's supposed superiority. You claim humans are godless and therefore weak. I'm afraid there's been a fundamental misunderstanding. Zethkar's mandibles clicked in amusement. Explain your delusion, human. Chen activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Images of ancient temples, medieval cathedrals, and modern churches flickered across the chamber. We did worship many gods once. Gods of love, harvest, wisdom, death. But as we evolved, most of us moved beyond traditional worship. Exactly, Zethkar interrupted. Godless, weak. Not godless, Chen corrected, her voice hardening. We simply consolidated. The hologram shifted, displaying humanity's military history. Bronze Age warriors, Roman legions, medieval knights, World War trenches, modern battlefields, and finally, sleek spacecraft bristling with weapons. You see, Ambassador, we discovered something interesting about ourselves. While other species worshipped gods of peace, prosperity, and wisdom, humans consistently returned to one particular deity across every culture, every era, every continent. Zethkar's confidence wavered slightly as he studied the images. Mars, Ares, Tyr, Odin, Durga, Huitzilopochtli, Sekhmet. Chen's voice grew reverent as she spoke each name. Different names, same god. The god of war, strategy, and conflict. And unlike your distant abstract deities, our god didn't just demand worship. The hologram zoomed in on human faces throughout history. Soldiers, generals, strategists. Their eyes held something Zethkar had never seen in his 40 cycles of conquest. A terrible, focused hunger. Our god demanded participation, Chen continued. Every human carries a spark of this deity within them. We don't pray to war. We become war when necessary. Zethkar straightened, trying to regain his composure. Ridiculous superstition. The hegemony's fleet will what? Chen interrupted. Your intelligence reports show you've never faced true human military doctrine. Every species you've conquered fought defensive wars trying to protect what they loved. But humans, she smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Humans don't just fight to defend. We fight to win. Completely. Permanently. The hologram displayed tactical analyses of human military engagements, scorched earth campaigns, total war strategies, the willingness to sacrifice entire populations to achieve victory. Even Zethkar's warrior caste paled in comparison to humanity's systematic approach to warfare. Your species follows the doctrine of honorable conquest, Chen noted, reading from a datapad. Surgical strikes, minimal civilian casualties, preservation of infrastructure. Very civilized, very predictable. She looked directly at Zethkar, and he saw something that chilled his multi-chambered heart. The same look he'd witnessed in the holographic warriors throughout human history. Humans wrote a different doctrine, Ambassador. We call it total war. When we decide to fight, we don't stop until our enemy's capability and will to resist are completely shattered. We target military forces, supply lines, industrial capacity, and yes, civilian morale. We make war so terrible that surrender becomes preferable to continued resistance. The chamber fell silent. Even the human delegates seemed sobered by their ambassador's words. But surely, Zethkar stammered, your modern civilization has evolved beyond such barbarism. Chen nodded thoughtfully. We prefer peace now. We've learned to channel our gods' gifts into sports, business competition, scientific advancement. War became our last resort instead of our first instinct. She leaned forward across the negotiating table. But, Ambassador, you're threatening the children and grandchildren of the species that invented nuclear weapons, biological warfare, orbital bombardment, and artificial intelligence warfare. The same species that looked at its own capacity for destruction and chose to explore the stars instead. Zethkar's confidence crumbled as the implications sank in. So here's what's going to happen, Chen continued, her voice deadly calm. You're going to return to your hegemony council and explain that you've encountered a species whose god isn't distant and abstract. Our god lives in every human heart, sleeping peacefully most of the time. She stood, and every human in the chamber rose with her in perfect synchronization. But if you attack our worlds, if you threaten our families, if you mistake our preference for peace as weakness, her eyes blazed with ancestral fire, you'll wake up a god that has been dreaming of new ways to win wars for the past century. The hologram shifted one final time, showing Earth's defensive fleet, sleek ships that seemed to hunger for battle, their weapon systems designed not just for victory, but for absolute annihilation. The choice is yours, Ambassador. Peace with humans who've chosen to be civilized, or war with humans who remember how to be savage. Zethkar looked around the chamber at faces that suddenly seemed less like primitive bipeds and more like apex predators, restraining themselves through pure willpower. For the first time in his life, he understood what his prey felt like. I will convey your message to the council, he whispered. As he departed, Chen called after him. Tell them something else, Ambassador. Tell them that humans pray differently than other species. We don't ask our god for victory. She smiled one last time, and Zethkar would remember that expression in his nightmares for cycles to come. We promise our god a war worth fighting,